The conference room
It's
fell
not as bad
silent
as
as
it
Sarah
looks,
Chen's
but
hands
it
trembled
hurts.
over the fabric of her blouse. What happened next would shatter every assumption Marcus Rodriguez had made about his brilliant, untouchable boss, and transform both their lives forever. Marcus had worked at Henderson and Associates for 3 years, always maintaining professional distance from everyone, especially Sarah Chen, the company's youngest senior partner. A single father to 7-year-old Emma, he'd learned to keep his head down, do his work, and get home before the after-school program closed. Romance wasn't on his radar. Survival was. But that Thursday evening, everything changed. He'd stayed late to finish the Morrison contract, assuming the office was empty. The cleaning crew had already made their rounds. That's when he heard it, a sound so unexpected in this sterile corporate environment that it stopped him mid-keystroke. Someone was crying. Marcus found Sarah in the small conference room, her perfectly styled hair disheveled, mascara tracking down her cheeks. She looked up, startled, her usual composure shattered. For a moment, neither spoke. "I'm sorry," she whispered, frantically wiping her face. "I thought everyone had gone home. Ms. Chen, are you okay?" The question felt inadequate, but Marcus couldn't just walk away. She laughed bitterly. "Sarah. Just call me Sarah. And no, I'm not okay. But I will be. I always am." Marcus hesitated in the doorway. Every professional instinct told him to excuse himself, to pretend he'd seen nothing. But the human part of him, the part that had comforted Emma through nightmares and skinned knees, couldn't abandon someone so obviously in pain. "Can I get you some water? Coffee?" Sarah shook her head, then surprised him by gesturing to the chair across from her. "Can you just sit for a minute? I don't want to be alone right now, but I don't want to talk either." So Marcus sat. Minutes passed in silence. Finally, Sarah spoke. "Do you know what tomorrow is?" Her voice was barely audible. "Friday. My 40th birthday." She laughed again, that same broken sound. 40 years old. Senior partner at a prestigious firm. Multiple awards. A penthouse apartment. And completely, utterly alone. Marcus said nothing, sensing she needed to continue. "No one wants to date me," Sarah whispered, the words tumbling out like a confession. "They're intimidated by my success, or they want to use me for it. I've tried everything, dating apps, blind dates, letting friends set me up. Nothing works. I'm too successful to be vulnerable, too powerful to be loved." She stood abruptly, turning toward the window. "Want to know the worst part?" Her hands moved to the hem of her blouse, and Marcus instinctively looked away. "No, look," she said firmly. "Everyone needs to see this eventually." She lifted her shirt just enough to reveal her left side, a landscape of scars, angry and twisted, running from her ribcage down to her hip. "Car accident. 5 years ago." Sarah's voice was steady now, clinical. 18 surgeries. The physical therapy was hell, but I survived. I thrived, actually. Became the youngest senior partner in company history. But this, she gestured to the scars. "This is why third dates never lead to fourth ones. This is why I'm alone." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. He'd made so many assumptions about Sarah Chen, that she was cold, calculating, perhaps even heartless. He'd never imagined this depth of pain, this profound loneliness. "I understand," he said quietly. Sarah's expression hardened. "With all due respect, Marcus, you can't possibly." "My wife left me 2 months after Emma's diagnosis," he interrupted gently. "Emma has type 1 diabetes. She was 4. My wife couldn't handle it, the constant monitoring, the middle-of-the-night blood sugar checks, the terrifying possibility of something going wrong. She said she married me for a perfect family, not this. She left, filed for divorce, and I haven't heard from her since." Sarah lowered her shirt, turning to face him fully. "People see me as the struggling single dad," Marcus continued. "They pity me at Emma's school events. They set me up with friends who want to save me. They don't see me, just my circumstances. Just my damage." "That's exactly it," Sarah breathed. "The damage. But here's what I've learned," Marcus said, standing. "The damage is part of our story, not the whole story. And anyone who can't see past it doesn't deserve to be in the rest of it." Sarah studied him with new eyes. "How do you stay so optimistic?" "I have a 7-year-old who thinks I hung the moon. Even on my worst days, I have to be the person she believes I am." He smiled. It's exhausting and terrifying and the greatest gift I've ever received. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She reminds me that being broken doesn't mean being worthless. She's got scars too, her arms look like pincushions from all the insulin injections and blood tests. But she's the bravest person I know. Sarah sat down again, something shifting in her expression. I've been so focused on what I've lost that I forgot to see what I still have. It's easy to do, Marcus agreed. They talked for another hour. Sarah shared stories about her recovery, her family's awkward attempts to help, her fear that she'd never be enough for anyone. Marcus told her about Emma's diagnosis, the steep learning curve of single parenthood, his own moments of despair. When they finally stood to leave, Sarah seemed lighter somehow. Marcus, would you and Emma like to have dinner with me sometime? Nothing romantic, she added quickly. I'd like to meet this remarkable kid. And I think I could use some friends who understand. We'd love that. Over the following months, something unexpected blossomed. Sarah became a fixture in their lives, teaching Emma about confidence and strength, joining them for Saturday morning pancakes, helping with school projects. Marcus showed Sarah that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that asking for help was brave, not shameful. Emma adored Sarah, especially the stories about her surgeries. You're like a superhero, Emma declared one evening, tracing the edge of a scar visible above Sarah's collar. You got hurt but you didn't give up. Neither did you, Sarah replied, gently touching the small scars on Emma's arm. 6 months after that night in the conference room, Marcus and Sarah sat in a different space, a small Italian restaurant where they'd become regulars. Emma was having a sleepover with her best friend, giving them a rare evening alone. I need to tell you something, Sarah said, her hands fidgeting with her napkin. Marcus waited, his heart suddenly racing. I'm falling in love with you, she whispered. And it terrifies me because I know how this ends. You'll see too much of my damage, and I'm not going anywhere, Marcus interrupted firmly. He reached across the table, taking her hands. Sarah, I've seen your damage. I've seen you at 3 a.m., dealing with insomnia from PTSD. I've seen you cancel important meetings because Emma needed someone at her school assembly. I've seen you struggle with simple things that used to be easy before the accident. And I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. Why? Because I've fallen in love with all of you, the brilliant lawyer, the woman who makes Emma laugh, the person who understands that sometimes surviving is the bravest thing we can do. Your scars are part of your story, Sarah. They're not the reason I love you, but they're not a reason not to love you either. Sarah squeezed his hands. I love you too. And Emma. God, I love that kid. She loves you too. She told me last week that she wants you to be her second mom. Really? We're a package deal, you know. Diabetes supplies, blood sugar monitors, emergency glucagon kits, and all. I wouldn't have it any other way. They left the restaurant hand in hand, walking through the city streets as evening settled around them. Two broken people who'd found wholeness not despite their scars, but because of their willingness to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be loved anyway. A year later, Emma stood as flower girl at their wedding, proudly showing the guests her matching bracelet with Sarah, both engraved with the same words, brave enough to begin again. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other. They're about wounded souls who choose to stay, to see past the damage, and to build something beautiful from broken pieces. And sometimes, the whispered confession in an empty office becomes the beginning of everything.